In this video I'll be talking about the distributive property. The distributive property is something that we're going to be using over and over and over again. This year we'll use it, next year we'll use it in 8th grade, and then you'll just continue to use it through high school and college mathematics. I'm not going to start out by showing you exactly what it is. I'm going to start by doing a couple examples, and then I'll get to the distributive property. So simplify. So simplify in this case is just actually doing the multiplication. 3 times 8. So 3 times 8, and remember when there's a number next to another number in parentheses, it means multiplication. So 3 times 8 is 24. So that's how you simplify that. Now I'm going to move this down and we'll get to another problem. In this case, the order of operations would tell us, well, you need to do what's in parentheses first, which in this case is adding, and then multiply by 4. So this is like saying 4 times 7, which is 28. Now when we get to this next problem, we would like to do what's in parentheses first, but there's no number here where the x is. We're not sure what that is, so we can't actually do any addition here because we don't know what x is. So here's where we actually need the distributive property. So we want to simplify, but we can't do this addition, so we have to do this multiplication by 2 instead. Now we're still going to get a variable in the answer, but we will be able to simplify. So with this 2 outside parentheses, what it means is that the 2 needs to be multiplied to everything on the inside. So the 2 is going to be multiplied by x, or multiplied to x, and then we're going to add that to 2 times 3. And this addition symbol becomes this addition symbol here. And so our final answer, our final simplified answer would be 2x, which means 2 times x, then the plus, and then 2 times 3, which would be 6. So here's the final answer of this problem. Now, we have to use the distributive property when dealing with variables in this case. However, just to show you that it does work with actual numbers here, let's do it in this way. Remember, the answer was 28, so we'll remember that. And now I'm going to use the distributive property. So first, it would tell us to do 4 times 2, 4 times 2, and then it's going to tell us to do 4 times 5. We're distributing this 4 to every item in the parentheses. So 4 times 2 is 8. 4 times 5 is 20, and we could see that the answer would be 28, same as what we got before, which was, remember, 4 times 7, which was 28. Now, when you're doing a problem like this, the distributive property is unnecessary, so you might be saying, well, why would you do this? You really don't need to do this. I just wanted you to show you that it works and why we're allowed to do it when there's a variable here. One thing that people like to think about when they're doing the distributive property is imagine a rectangle. There we go, get rid of that. So imagine a rectangle, and I'll draw one here. And if the width of this rectangle was 4, and it was split up into 2 smaller rectangles, one with a length of 2 and one with a length of 5, you could figure out the area of this rectangle in 2 ways. You could say 4 times 7 would give you all that, which is 28, or you could do the 4 times 2 and the 4 times 5 and then add it after. So the distributive property shows us that you can add these and then multiply, or multiply to each individual item, right? This would be a plus. So let's go on to do a couple examples. In here we have 2 times x plus 4, and then we're going to multiply by 7. Well, since we don't know what x is, we have to use the distributive property. So 7 will be multiplied to 2x, and then we're going to add 7 multiplying to 4 again. So 7 times 2 times x, this is like 3 things happening, or 2 operations, 7 times 2 and 2 times x. We can do them in any order, so 7 times 2 is 14, and then 14 times x is x, so 14x, plus 7 times 4 is 28. And this is your final answer here. Now this one looks like it might be a little more complicated for two reasons. One of them is that there's three items in the parentheses. There's the 2x, there's this minus 3, and a minus y. The fact that there's more items doesn't really change anything. The 8 still has to be multiplied to all of them. That's what these arrows are for. The subtraction does change things a bit. So the first thing, we have 8 times 2x. Then instead of the plus here that we put here, we have a minus. So we'll put minus. And we have 8 times 3 minus, again, 8 times y. So I'll just go below to show that. So we have an 8 times 2 times x, and we can do that in any order. So I'll do 8 times 2 is 16, then times x, minus 8 times 3, minus 8 times y. And we are done with that one. Now, since these are not like terms, we cannot combine them, and we're going to do more of this the next time we meet. Let's do another one. So the only use of distributive property is not when there's variables. We can also use it to do some mental math. Now, I'm not going to do it mentally because I need to show you how it works, but this is what you would do mentally. So the distributive property, remember, is when there's things added or subtracted in parentheses. In this case, that's not true, but it could be. Certainly 53 could be seen as 50 plus 3, right? And so now, using the distributive property, we have 6 times 50 plus 6 times 3, and so we get, I'm going to write it out again, but when you do this mentally, it actually happens quite quickly. And so we would get 318. So when you see 6 times 53, that's kind of a daunting multiplication problem to do in your head. And instead of doing it in your head like you would on paper and kind of thinking through, 6 times 3, carry the 1, instead of that, you want to think of it as 6 times 50 is 300. 6 times 3 is 18, so it's just 318. This one can be done in a similar way, not exactly, but kind of similar. So instead of 7 times 80 plus 7 times 9, which could be done, I think it'll be easier in this case to do it like this. 7 times 90 minus 7 times 1. So we do the 7 times 90 first, minus the 7 times 1, and we'll get 630 minus 7, which is 623. And I can show you for both of these the work done on the right side here, just to show you that it does give you the correct answer, 318. And over here we get, what was it, 89 times 7, so 63 and 50, what was that, 54, 56, plus 6 is 62, so 623. So with practice, the mental math aspect here of the distributive property actually makes these very fast. So I've done them on paper here, and I've explained each step, but when you're doing it in your head and doing it quickly, this can happen in seconds, 1 second, 2 seconds, 3 seconds, and people will be amazed at how fast you can do these big multiplication problems. So we'll practice some of that tomorrow. There's also some stuff called factoring in this section, which we're going to skip for now. There's a lot of benefits to factoring, but I think it'll be confusing at this point, so we'll get back to it later on. Thank you.